Download the free Book Lovers Trail Te Arakai Puka Puka audio app and start your literary journey along State Highway 2, from Wellington through the Wairarapa and into the Hawke's Bay, one bookshop at a time. Download the app now from the Apple Store, Google Play Store or the web app. More info at www.booktown.org.nz.
Tēnā koutou katoa. My name's Phil Quin and I'm very lucky to be here to compare today's important session. We're gathering to try and answer as best we can, a simple question with complex roots and no easy answers. Are men these days, all of us, doing okay? In New Zealand, we've had a long and quite culturally specific script for masculinity. It's a cultural code that we're all familiar with of toughness, resilience, understatement, passed down from the rugby field, the shearing shed, and also, given this is a literary festival, in our literature. John Mulgan, who wrote Man Alone, described the country as a place of quiet, steadfast men. Good in a crisis, but no good at talking about their feelings. Greg McGee in the 80s with Forskin's Lament, a wonderful play, addressed that unspoken demand on men with the part question, part accusation, what are you? We celebrate icons like Ed Hillary, who after climbing Mount Everest, when asked, why did you do it? Answered famously, because it was there. We adulate great sporting icons like Colin Meads, who regarded a broken arm as no more than a momentary inconvenience and went on and played the rest of the game. We admire that. But it's a legacy that carries its own burdens. Silence becomes a habit, and emotion becomes something we don't address outwardly and often don't have the tools to deal with inwardly. So today's discussion really is about looking at that pattern, addressing that pattern, maybe breaking it somewhat, not with slogans, but with stories and insights from men who have, in varying ways, dealt with the phenomenon of not being okay. And I include myself in that. So let's get into it. And I'm pleased to introduce a stellar panel of men who are going to open up in ways that will potentially even make us feel a little bit awkward with how honest they're being with us. Matt Heath, to my right, is a well-known broadcaster, writer and commentator with a sharp mind and even sharper wit. Matt has written about fatherhood, identity and the sometimes unglamorous aspects of being a Kiwi bloke in the 21st century. He does it with humour and insight, which we look forward to hearing today. Wayne Langford, to his right, is known as the YOLO farmer. You only live once, I suppose that's what it stands for. He's also the current president of Federated Farmers. And I just want to note how wonderful it is that the president of Federated Farmers, a stupendously important lobby group throughout all of my life and before, is here talking about this issue. I think that in and of itself tells us something about the progress that we've made. And he also leads the charge, and he'll talk more about it, Wayne, won't you, about really embedding a consciousness of wellness on the farm and in rural communities generally. And of course, if anyone needs no introduction, Paddy Gower, known to all of us as one of New Zealand's most fearless And I would say, knowing a few of the people who have been the targets of his industry, one of the most feared political journalists in New Zealand, but he's broadened out.
Retired.
He's broadened out to be a powerful and unique, a word often overused, but not, I would argue in the case of Paddy Gower, a unique voice on a range of issues, whether it's meth, alcoholism, many of the taboo subjects that we go out of our way to avoid addressing. He addresses front on and with great honesty about his own personal journey on many of those fronts. So it's great to have all of them here. And of course, last but not least, behind me, we have our international guest, the Irish writer and farmer, John Connell. Please give him a round of applause so he knows.
Yeah. G'day,
he knows
John.
that we see him.
Hello there in Ireland.
Through works like the Cow Book, I think you also wrote a book about 12 sheep, is that correct? Book about 12 sheep, which doesn't count as a farm in New Zealand, but let's not tell him that. He writes extensively about grief, land, memory, and masculinity, and he does so with striking honesty. And whilst we're addressing these particular New Zealand aspects of masculinity today, I will note that John spent quite some time in Australia, where I think the masculine ethos is not dissimilar to our own, not least through the shared experiences of war as fellow Anzacs. So please join me in welcoming this terrific panel.
Yes. Ireland.
Ireland, can you say something in your wonderful...
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Oh, shit, he's Irish.
go.
Oh, yeah, there
He's
we
certainly
go.
Irish.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
So it's great to have you here. Thank you, John, for joining us. I'll start to my immediate right, and I have brought along with me, as Matt has, a copy of his book, A Life Less Punishing, which I hope is on sale in the...
I see a pile of them over there, so I
There's a
assume
pile
those
of them
are on
over
sale.
there, so please avail yourself of that.
Safety orange.
Having put down my notes, I've lost the question, but you've talked and written about, in particular, the gap between how men present to the world and how they feel inside, particularly around fatherhood and other major life changes. What's your sense on that question in particular, of where Kiwi blokes are now, say compared to when you were younger coming up, and are we getting better at it?
I think we're getting a lot better at it. When I was younger, it was, you would never even consider, and where I grew up, sort of just outside Dunedin, you would never consider A, drinking anything other than Spates, B, talking about anything other than rugby, and you would never, ever say to your friend that you weren't feeling great about a situation. It just wasn't a thing that would ever happen. And interestingly, I am friends with this, the same group of wounders that I went to high school with. So I could definitely track how we have changed. And we were the worst at that. I think at my friend group were probably some of the worst people in the world for ridiculing each other if we ever tried to share any problems. And so to watch them and me become much more open to all these just ideas that maybe you could talk about your emotions and the stress that you're under with your friends was huge. In fact, I went to a 60th the other day, and on stage, he's a guy that I used to work for, and he was just talking about he said the strangest thing that's happened in his life in the last 10 years is getting supportive texts from, and he pointed out us, these horrible individuals here. So on a personal level, I think you can definitely track that people. I mean, on my personal level, I can track that things have opened up, but I think they have as well. I was doing a podcast the other day with some great New Zealanders that are working in this space, and I said, look, I think it's everywhere, and people are talking about it more. And he said, no, you're just in that bubble where people are because you've written a book on it. So maybe that's the case. Maybe I'm in the bubble because I wrote the book about it. I reached out to my friends and they changed a little bit, and we changed together. And maybe I'm just looking into it more. So it's sort of, your algorithm starts throwing back what you're looking into. But I do feel like I'd love to know what other people think about that, because I do feel like I now would ask a friend how they're coping with the situation when I never ever would have. And I'll do it sober as well. Because I think for men, for the longest time, that was the conversation you had after about 15 beers at the end of the night. And it never really got to the point, and then you just went, oh, sorry, mate, I got a bit emotional at the end of the night or whatever. I think it's got to that stage where we can probably even talk about things while we're sober. So I think that's a huge development.
Wow. I'd like to sort of hand that over to Wayne somewhat, just to stress test Matt's theory that things have got better. You're dealing with people in rural communities in particular. Is that reflective of your experience?
Yeah, I would say very much so. We've got to a really interesting place in terms of mental health and well-being, where I think there is a good understanding and acknowledgement of what it is and what we're talking about now. And that's come from brave people putting themselves forward and talking about it more. So, I mean, for me, I'm always someone that wants to fix something. So the next step is, hey, what are we going to do about it? That's probably a conversation for a bit later. But yes, there's definitely a space now of more acknowledging it, knowing about it, and knowing, I guess, the differences in the spectrum that there can be when we start to talk about mental health and wellbeing.
And Paddy, you talk to a lot of people out there in the country. What's your sense? Are people more open and willing to confront this stuff?
Definitely, and hello everybody. It's amazing to be here in the Kiwi Hall, and a great honour. Actually, I didn't realise until I sat here to have my ancestor, Richard Barton JP, who came out from the Isle of Wight and helped found the suburb of Trentham just over the hill there.
I was born in Trentham. There you go, small world.
Yeah, so a really big moment to me to be speaking under him. Just joking. Come on. It would have been amazing if it was true, wouldn't it? Yeah. I was going to go a bit further and go, the steadfast way that he developed. But anyway, we won't do this.
Would you run that hairdo later?
Yeah, that's
It's beautiful, koala look.
Hey, yes, we are so much more open than we have been, but we've got a long way to go, and it's funny being here actually, because 4 years ago I came over and Kindsley AgVet got me to come over, and we're coming out the back of COVID, and the fella got in touch and said, come over and speak to a group of Wairarapa farmers, and I'm going to put on free feed and get everyone down, and I come over and I was the guest speaker, and I was, even though I'd been broadcasting for a while, I was relatively new to speaking in public and stuff like that, and it was the hardest group that I have ever spoken to in my life. I come from a farming community in Taranaki. I lived in town, but all my mates are farmers. My dad serviced the farming community. I'm not unused to this environment at all. And it was the hardest thing to do because I was a little bit caught off guard about how desperately in need of something the guys in the audience were. And then I kind of realised I couldn't really provide them what it was, which was just fucking some relief from the mental pressure that they were under. But they also couldn't really communicate or kind of get on the same wavelength with me, and basically it was a long awkward 1 hour, and then it was an even more awkward hour as I drove home kind of cursing myself because I wish I'd just chucked the microphone on the ground and said, come on in here boys, let's have a fucking hug, or put down a scrum and then have a hug or something like that, and I think we've come a long way, but we've got miles and miles to go with dealing with it. Yes, we've got, you charted out the the history of things. But it's funny. Last year I went and did a tour of New Zealand. I spoke from Stewart Island to Waitangi. And you'd go and speak, and I learned from the Wairarapa thing, and I'd go in and I would crack jokes for the first 45 minutes, design this thing so it was really funny, and I just talked about all this other stuff. And then at the end of it, I would just then, a bit like the old lady giving me medicine when I was younger, I would just slip it in right at the end and go quite hardcore at the end. That's what Wairarapa taught me. It's like, trick these buggers. So when I saw the title of this thing we're coming to today, I said, no one's going to go to that. Might as well put on it, come to the doctor for a prostate examination, and probably have more blokes show up. You know, you got to like sort of trick them. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, because at least with the prostate examination, they'd probably go, I do actually need one of those. Yeah. We would have got heaps in here, and yeah, but you know. Going around the country last year, and when you speak about it, I always notice this. And it was funny when I spoke to these guys 4 years ago. It was the woman asking the questions at the end. The guys were asking me lots of questions about Jacinda at the time. Can you tell her this? Can you tell her that? I was like, well, fuck, I don't even know her, you know. And I didn't, because they were pent up and talking about things that were symptoms, no doubt, of what was deeper. And it was the woman actually in the audience who asked the questions. So. You know, my point is this: when I do these things, I know what people say to me afterwards. They will come up and say something quietly, or they'll message me or email me the next day. Never in the room, you know. It's still so taboo. Mental health, addiction, alcohol, all of these things. It's bloody awkward. So that's my long-winded way of saying we've still got a long way to go.
Yeah, and to that point, Wayne, you mentioned that you like to fix things. And with my own experience, and I'm sure with others, part of the difficulty in the conversation, the are you okay, no I'm not conversation, is that often there's no fix that certainly you as the recipient of that can do for your mate or your brother or your cousin. And that's a frustrating element. And also, as the person who is suffering, isn't there a sense that you're imposing an expectation that it can be fixed on others?
Yeah, that is a challenge. Often when I talk about it, I say it's a bit like a herd of cows. A lame cow will always do her best to hide amongst the herd of cows until she's absolutely broken. She drifts to the back, and then you pick her up and you find her. Right? Well, it's no different. We and those that are struggling, we hide amongst the herd, and then so how do we find those amongst the herd that are struggling? And that's where it's tough asking the question. That's why, as Paddy said, from a rural point of view, that's why we have these barbecues now. We get people out, we get them talking, we get them off farm so that they are talking about something, so that hopefully we can pick up on.
Tell us a bit more about those barbecues.
Well, it's about getting people together. It's about particularly like during a drought, during a weather event, something going on. You've got 1,000 decisions coming at you every day, right? And you're like, and there's things being missed, and they compound on top of each other, and all of a sudden things start getting worse and worse, and the wife's copping the brunt of it, and it's really easy to get yourself in a messy place. You go to a barbecue like that, and all of a sudden you realise, the neighbour's going through exactly the same thing, yeah. You know, or he did this to get out of it, and maybe I could try that as well. And yeah. That's not I'm not talking about get out of mental health. I'm talking about just do this on the farm to relieve the burden of what was going on. So. Yeah, so that's kind of why we get into, I guess, that more of a space. Make sure that we are doing that side of things as well, and also if you think about it from a farming situation, I'm a real Dutchman now on my farm. I don't spend a lot of money, and that means I don't have a lot of people come to my farm. So I can work away for a long time, and no one would know I'm there, and no one would know what I'm doing, and no one would know what I'm going through other than my wife and my family.
And so, isolation, I think, is probably just another manifestation of what that lame cow is doing, right? You're just hiding from the world.
Isolation's really interesting. If I maybe just finish the point on that, I guess where I was going with that is the likes of vets, bank managers, support people that come onto the farm, the importance of them being aware of the signs, of the signals of something going on. Even the tanker driver.
Yeah.
You know. So I always get a bit cut up.
just, geez, takes me back to where I was when I was battling away, and no, sorry, just
No, you're good.
takes
You're
me
right.
back to think of geez, I got good at hiding it, you know, and I think of all the situations that got missed, and I think if we can if we can close as many of those doors as we can,
Yeah, so being able to, people being informed, not just about their own situation and not having better access to tools, but also being wise to it in others that you're particularly high risk groups.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I shouldn't apologise for the
This
emotion
is not a-
because
this is not a
that's
place-
what it's all about.
This
But
is not a place to apologise for emotion.
but it is. Well, I think anyone would say, you know, when you get in the depths of the depths, it's a pretty dark place. And when I think about it, that's where it takes me back to. But geez, what I'm so relieved with now is the tools, the opportunities, the strengths to get out of it. And that's when I start thinking about, oh yeah, what is this next phase, right? We've got awareness, we've got acknowledgement of it.
Yeah.
Right, how do we make sure that we can capture these guys or ladies that are getting into this place and work with them to hopefully get them out a bit quicker.
Brilliant. Awareness, what next? We'll get to in a sec. I just want to ask John, especially since Wayne used a cow metaphor, and you're a writer of a book about cows. How do you grade his bovine references there? Pretty good.
Yeah, good. I think this is a very important
reflect on what you've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a very important conversation. It's a conversation that we are having in Ireland, but also I'm having with farmers and academics in America as well. As I'm talking to you, I'm conscious of my own mental health journey, which was 10 years ago. Myself and the skills I learned, which were fucking hard to learn, but I've successfully managed my mental health for 10 years now. But I was actually thinking of a fact that a friend of mine, Connor Hammersley, he's an Irish academic based in Columbia University in America, and he was telling me that suicide is the leading cause of death on farms in Ireland, even more so than farm accidents. There's 10 suicides a week and 8 of them are men. And so conversations like we're having now are so important. Ireland and New Zealand are very similar countries. It's farming stock. There's a masculine culture. I suppose what it reminded me of is when I was an investigative journalist in Australia over a decade ago, and my mental health took a serious dip, and the language, we didn't have it at the time. I wasn't taught about it in school, and I suppose the thing that heartens me now is that language is developing and the awareness is developing. So my wife and I often talk about it because she was my girlfriend then, and she's seen it all. But she was saying, people are getting better and knowing more about what to do or say in those times, but there is still reluctance to talk. So I think events like today are so important. I think what Paddy was saying, I don't want to talk too long, but I think what Paddy was saying is sometimes you have to use humor or a barbecue, like Quin said, to get our men together to talk. And I know for myself, I do a good bit of motivational speaking in the mental health space, and it's with rural groups, and you have to bring it down to a level that people can relate to and understand. And that's something that I had to learn the skills, a bit like Paddy traveling through New Zealand. I had to learn the skills of how to talk to people because I never really did motivational talking before that. But it is something I see, and I'm greatly heartened by, that the thing is actually getting better, which is, we've a long way to go, but we've also come a hell of a long way, you know.
They're great insights.
Yeah, just to
Go
pick
ahead,
pick up on Wayne there, you know, in what John's saying, it's very important to remember that the role of the farmer and people in the farming community is so uniquely complex. You know, Matt and I see people every minute of the day. I fucking would love to be somewhere where I could be a Dutchman and no one would come and see me sometimes, because I'm a Dutchman and people are fucking coming to see me every minute of the day. But, you know, I think it really is important to remember the uniquely complex pressures that Kiwi farmers and their wives and their families are under. And, you know, you mentioned the finances before. You mentioned the complexity of the job, the number of decisions that need to be made, and then the loneliness. And, you know, there's only sort of bank managers and vets and the tanker driver visiting. You know, on top of that, we've seen our primary health system, or the GP, or whatever it's called, you know, where we've probably got the worst primary health care that we've had in this country for 100 years when we need it the most. And I think it's easy for city folk like myself and all of the decision makers and everything to forget the situation that you're under, so the situation that you find yourselves in and the uniqueness of it. So yeah, just a shout out to all of yous that, yeah, we get it, but I think sometimes we forget it, how hard it is to be out in the rural areas.
I was just thinking the same thing, Paddy, because all the solutions that you hear are reaching out to other people, you know. And I read this great book from a British writer called Billy No Mates, and it was just talking about how, you know, it was about men trying to find friendship and how we struggle more than women do, and we struggle to hold on to them, and as work takes over, they just slip out of our lives. And it was also talking about, you know, facing problems one after the other. But, you know, farming's a unique situation where you're both more isolated than people. So the answer to the solution that you give people in the city is, you know, spend more time with people. But if you've got the combined thing of having just such an endless amount of work to do and so many problems piling up and so many variables and plans changing, so you know, you've got this great plan to go and meet your mates because you're going to have a big talk about it, and then, you know, the weather does what the weather does, and things change. So it's a very unique set of circumstances, and I guess what I wanted to ask you, Wayne, is because you said the whole thing about, and I never really thought about this, the whole fixing thing. So in a rural environment, you pride yourself on being able to fix things, right? That's as you say. And so is there a part of it where you go, well, I should be able to fix this because I fix everything else?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's part of the issue, and a case of having to fix it. I mean, just tease into the conversation that's happening here. Add on to the top of, not only is it just wanting to reach out and stop, but the next morning you've still got to milk the cows. You know, someone's still got to do it. You've got millions of dollars invested in that farm. You can't just, it doesn't stop overnight. You want to sell it, that's 6 months down the road. When your brain is foggy and there's nothing going on up there, to think of getting anywhere near that, it's just completely out of mind. I'm a Langford, I'm 6th generation of farming, you know, like there's weight just in that. My wife and I have you know, every farming family within an area has got a brand within that area, you know. All of a sudden, oh shit, that's changing, that guy's, you know, gone off the rocker, you know. There's all this sort of pressure that comes on there. So how you alleviate that, take that away, and certainly, yeah, we talked about some of the talking that we do. When I talk about, yeah, that my brand is not my farm. I'm Wayne Langford the person, not Wayne Langford the farmer. I'm really proud of what I do. I'm really proud of farming, but hey, I've got to look after me first, and if I look after me, that'll look after the farm. And so, for too long and for too many, the farm comes first. We put the farm before everything, whether it be a trip away or time with the kids and this sort of thing. And you don't have to do much to get the light bulb going again in your head and get it right again, but you do have to do something, otherwise, you can stay in that place for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think I've admitted to having so many issues that they named a TV show after it, and it was not deliberate, you know what I mean? I remember I had a mental breakdown when I was political editor of TV3, and I actually quit the job, right? And I rang my old man, as I'd made the decision, and I love my dad, but he was absolutely useless. He did not know what I was talking about. I rang my best mate, who is actually, he's a lawyer over in Sydney, and he was useless as well, and I kind of had to end up doing it myself. This is only 7 years ago, and what I had was burnout. I'd had a nervous breakdown. I had to quit work. It was like my farm, Parliament, full of pigs. But
we have a few there in Ireland as well.
But to me, it was, all jokes aside, that was like that, and I had to come off it. And I went and hid away as well. I told my boss to hide it. I said, don't tell anyone. And I went away and hid it as well because I didn't want anyone to know. And then eventually I let out a little bit about it. And I remember I said something on the project one night that, I basically just said, it was very sort of small, that I was a workaholic kind of thing. And I just came off TV, and then I just had, I've done stories about every single thing there is in New Zealand by this stage, and I had never had so much feedback. And right in amongst it was one of my friends who said, I'm going through the same thing, one of my best friends. And that just made me realise, oh shit, what sort of friend am I if I didn't know that she was going through this, this burnout. And from there, for me, it just sort of became a thing, where it's gone from the opposite. Like, I'm not ashamed now to say that I've been depressed in the past. I'm not ashamed to say that I've been anxious and had anxiety attacks. I'm not ashamed to say that I've had a mental breakdown, and I'm not ashamed to say that I was an alcoholic. And for a long time I was ashamed, and I hid all that. The opposite is that, I feel now that it gives me mana when I walk into places and people see these things and know all these things about me because they're in the past. And the reason I share it is because I know how hard it is for other people to even begin. And for me, the gifts that I've been given in life, being able to tell stories and yarn and crack people up, I kind of feel there's a bit of a duty in me just going, yeah, I'm fucked up. So that other people can at least go, shit, I can't say it, but at least he can. Because there's nothing to be embarrassed about it. And there's a way out the other side, and I'm living that. And every time I come to an audience like this, I know there's lots of people out there that are happy I just said the things I said.
100%. I think that people like you and other people with public profile who own up and talk honestly about it, the value to that, it's impossible to calculate, because you'll never know who's been affected by it, how many thousands, what kids watching, whatever. The breaking down of shame, because shame is not only a consequence of mental health struggles, it's a compounding ingredient. It makes it worse. So if we can break down that shame, and what better way is there than having people like yourself out there owning up and making people feel that, a couple of things, it's not shameful, but also it's not the end. There's another chapter to come.
Yeah, you can get better.
You can get better, and you can thrive. And so by modelling that, I think you do a great service.
That shame thing's a really interesting one, though, because I agree with you totally, Paddy. But I've written a book about it, and I've written about the moment when my life broke down, and I had, I guess, similar problems in a way, and that I had employees, and I was worried about their families, and I was worried about a whole lot of things, and mum died, and a friend committed suicide, and there was all these things that happened, and I had this total meltdown. But I still feel quite a lot of shame about it, even though I've written about it. And I say to people all the time, you shouldn't feel shameful about it, but for some reason, I think that's the hardest thing to get rid of. And I do quite a lot of speeches about this, and there's the bit that I have to do where I talk about that moment. And even now, that's the bit that I don't like to talk about, because I really don't want to feel shame about it. But I rush through that bit, and it's kind of like and so I think we want there not to be shame, and there shouldn't be shame, but there still is shame. Even for someone that's written 286 bloody words about it, there's still shame.
Yeah, I know. For me,
Sorry, we've got a question from the audience. Sorry,
yeah.
John. We'll just take this
No.
question from the audience.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there's a shame in how I behaved, probably. I thought, and go to Paddy's point, my go-to solution, I thought, well, things aren't going well. I might just drink even more and do even more stupid things and make my life even worse. So I guess you got to forgive yourself and go, because the past isn't a realm you live in. So that's, I think that's definitely a part of it, and it goes to what Wayne's saying about trying to fix things. You kind of feel like I should be the person that fixes other people rather than me failing to fix myself. And then there's a lot of shame when you talk about it, because who is any of us, or who am I particularly, to even have an opinion on other people's terrible situations they're in, because so many people have it worse. I guess that might be it, actually, that you never think that your problems are the worst in the world, so you should just shut up. And what you realise is that they're your problems, and if they're fucking you up, then they're serious. They're real problems.
Yeah, that's right. John, I want to bring you back in.
Yeah, it's so much to say, but I've been writing a new book, and one of the chapters was about Stoicism, which is an old philosophy. But I interviewed a farmer in Broken Hill, or just outside Broken Hill in Australia, and I thought it was really interesting. He said to me, Stoic farmers end up as dead farmers in a drought in Western New South Wales, and he said you have to talk to one another, and it realigned that whole thinking for me. And I know it's amazing we're all here talking about this, and there's so many overlaps with my own story as well. I know that like Paddy, I was a journalist, I was a communicator, and when I went public with what had happened to me, my parents were so taken aback. But then there was a bloke on his way. I was on public radio. There was a bloke on his way to take his life, and he heard me speak, and he didn't do it. And for me, it was an amazing moment to be able to help someone. But it was the catalyst for me to say, well, if that's one person that it made a difference to, how many more can you do? But every time you bear that part of yourself, there's a vulnerability there too, because you don't know. But I suppose I think Wayne said it, but you can look back and go, wow, in the space of 10 years or 5 years, look at all the good that has happened. And I know I had a friend commit suicide years ago, and I remember it was lambing season on the farm, and I was thinking to myself, God, that was 10 years ago. If only you could have known that the problem that you'd face then wouldn't be the issue now. But it's so often it's a short-term cycle, and sometimes we need to. I remember the therapist said that to me. She said sometimes you got to go through the shit to come out the other side, and then be able to say, like, if I look back and I went through a really rough time for a couple of years, and I said to my wife yesterday, all the amazing things I've got to do in the last 10 years: get married, have a son, have a job, write books, and none of that seemed possible 10 years ago. And I suppose sometimes it is that kind word that we hear from someone, and hopefully it's another bloke, to say to you, you will get through this. And maybe that's the things we need to be able to say to our other friends, is you will get through this. But we have to put tools and parameters and everything in place. But there's this topic is a global conversation, because men need to be having it. It doesn't matter if you're in Ireland or New Zealand or Australia or America. It's minding our men is a conversation that is very prescient in the 21st century.
No, I'll maybe let you go to the next question.
Okay, well, because we could go on for literally days, I think, talking about this stuff.
Yeah,
but
I can actually talk for days.
yeah, and we'd enjoy it, but we don't have the hall for that long. I'd like though to broaden it out to the audience for a couple of questions to the panel.
Yeah, okay, that was bloody brilliant.
Yeah,
Give that
brilliant.
guy a round of applause. That was
Yeah.
awesome. There's a seat up here, mate. Come bloody join us with that sort of level of intelligence. That was awesome. That was the best contribution of today.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably all heard about that Harvard happiness study, have you, where they studied some men in Boston for 70 years, and they found that the biggest, indicator of how good their life was going to be in their 70s wasn't their cholesterol in their 50, but it was the quality of their relationships with their family and their friends, and the people that put the work in, especially when they left jobs, because men tend to leave jobs or leave areas, and then that guy's your best mate, and then you leave the area or leave the job, and then you never contact them again, and they disappear. So it's a really interesting study if you read it, and basically it just said the quality of your friendships, leads to the quality of your life. Full stop. That's what Waldinger, the psychiatrist that is currently running the study, said.
Don't show off just because the guy took things up a level, mate. We can all do that.
Okay,
mate.
his name's not Waldinger. His name's not Waldinger. I made that up, so it seemed like I knew what I was talking about. Who knows what his bloody name is?
Probably one of them.
But anyway, the other end of this thing was this concept of the Sherpa. And it's if the quality of the friendships are important, and this is difficult for farmers for all the reasons we say, all the problems coming at you, the isolation, the impossibility to get time off and stuff. But the concept of the Sherpa is in your group of friends, taking it on board to be the person that reaches out and makes it happen. In terms of fixing the problem, is I'm going to be the person that organises the meetings. I'm going to be the person that organises the golf trip, we're all going to go and run a 10K together or whatever it is. You're the person that just keeps pushing it and demanding that it happens. Can't happen this week, next week, can't happen this week, next week, and you just keep pushing and pushing. And that's something, when I started doing that sort of helped me, because it wasn't just me trying to work myself out by actually trying to help my friends that I could see in trouble and bring us all together. I felt that was a really good way to sort of actively push it up and just to not give up. But also the sad song thing's really interesting, because when my lovely partner, when she gets sad, I couldn't understand for the longest time why she put sad music on, because I would always put on this band called Hatebreed, which is a really intense metal band, and that sort of G'd me up. But then I'm kind of leaning into that sad song things, and that's like what country music isn't it? In a lot of ways, is because if you ignore an emotion, it's like a fire alarm going off. Until you actually, look at it and deal with it, it just keeps going off. So there is a lot in sad songs. I agree. I'm into them now.
Yeah, and I really like what you've said, and actually your intro as well. And we've got this culture, haven't we, where people, including my great-great-great-grandfather up here, we've got this culture here where we don't say stuff and we don't have sad songs and we don't express it and everything. But at the same time, just listening to everything we've been saying, within our unique culture, we have, and what Wayne was saying as well, within our unique culture, we have the solutions for the mental health crisis within ourselves. The things that Edmund Hillary did, that Richard McCaw did with the foot, and Colin Meads with the arm.
Buck Shelford, you got to remember him.
Buck Shelford lost the scrotum. All of these things, and the resilience and the solving problems on the farm, and the communities that we've had in all these places, like the people that built this bloody hall that we're in, all of the solutions are actually around us. We've been doing it and using them for 150, 160, 170, 180 years. The solutions are around us, and that, in my view, with the mental health crisis in the cities and in the regions, women and with men, we're talking about rural men today, we are going to have to find the solutions ourselves within us. And that's why groups like Farm Focus and people that stand up, and people like Wayne who speak out, are the leaders in this, because no one is going to come and fix this problem for us. We've got to fix it ourselves. And we're going to do that because we've been doing it for a long, long time out in our rural areas. We've got to do it the way that you fix anything else on the farm. You got to ask the neighbour. You got to ask a mate for help. You got to bring in someone else with the ideas and the resources. It's the only way you do it. You just got to look at it like any other problem on the farm, in my view.
And it's a shoulder to. I've came across this expression, shoulder to shoulder conversation rather than top down. Blokes work better shoulder to shoulder, talking to each other on an equal footing, rather than someone from on high, government or whatever, saying you must do this, and men's instinct is naturally to rebel. So you want to have a mate telling you this stuff, and so that's something I just got from you, Paddy. But I think it's true.
Yeah, so true. Shoulder to shoulder.
I know. I came out of retirement and started playing senior B footy again, and just to your point there, to hang out with the mates. I'm shit at rugby. Like I played for 2 years, didn't make a tackle, but geez, I held up one side of the scrum. That was my job, But I got to go to training Tuesday and Thursday, game on Saturday, hang out with the boys, get physical, have a big 150 kilo water buffalo from the Pacific come running at me every Saturday, And sometimes you just need something to scare the shit out of you, make yourself feel alive again, right? And let you know, and that's what it was about for me. And my wife, credit to her, she we were going through a real busy time with our kids. We had young, three under three, and she could have easily said stay home and help with the family. She didn't. She recognised that. Said no, I've got to get my man out. Got to get him going again, and get back into it.
Yeah, I think what Wayne and Matt are sort of saying in different ways is be intentional about things. Be intentional about building and protecting your friendships.
That's the great thing about being in a team. If you can join one, it doesn't have to be whatever kind of team or thing is. You have to be there, or else you're letting people down. So it's the I'm not going to go for whatever reason becomes harder because you're letting
the very
other
act
people
of being on a team is
Otherwise,
where it helps.
your side of the scrum is going to fall down.
It's hard, this stuff, isn't it? Because it's so basic, isn't it? It's like you're literally telling people, shit, there's a mental health crisis, but go get a hobby, because that's what it is. But these are the solutions.
It's go get a hobby, ring your mates. I mean, these are not, it's not rocket science.
And it does seem trite sometimes because you're dealing with something so massive, but things are so simple. I think one of the things that we've lost is connection. The ability to connect with each other. For a whole lot of reasons, we've become really crap at it, and people are lonely or they're disconnected from people in their own family. They've lost connection with their parents. They've lost connection with their kids and with their friends. And connection is it's something, it doesn't matter how much AI or anything we ever have, the way that you connect with a mate when you're shoulder to shoulder in a rugby scrum or out for a run or doing a bike ride or fixing something or something like that, that is innate human connection. Like when you get a job done with your mate. I don't actually know what that feels like, but it probably feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We've got to start putting on a book festival like this. Booktown is a classic example of people in a community coming together and doing something and creating something and making something and making something for other people to be involved in as well. I mean, things like that are phenomenal.
Well, a shout out to Booktown is a great way to end our session. Thank you very much for coming.
All right.
Put your hand up if you're a man who lives in Okay, did you know that Featherston has a rugby, a league, a soccer, a netball, a tennis, a Scrabble, a badminton, and
I'm
a
in.
book club just for men? Did you know that? Wednesday nights, generally, down at the Sports Hub. I'm the president of the rugby club and the league club and the tennis club. Openly gay as well.
It's your Sherpa right there.
Yep. I even wrote a book once. But come along, talk to your mates. I was in Parliament with Paddy for 6 years, had a breakdown as well. And it was my mates helped me, grew up on a dairy farm. So yeah, come along. There's a lot to do here in Featherston. So get involved. And I'm just going to hand back over to our sponsor to close us out.
Yeah, can I just touch real quickly on that, because you a really good point there around, hey, you've been through it too. We do that as guys, right? We, particularly through our 30s, early 40s maybe, we push ourselves to the point where we break ourselves, right? So how do we work on capturing our men then? I know that's only one pocket, but particularly within farming, we're really bad at it. We push real hard, we get bigger farming businesses, we get bigger operations, and we break. Yeah, so I'll hand it back, but it's a really important point.
Awesome. And there's 2 free resources books at the back. Take them for yourselves or your friends.
Hi everyone, my name's Sarah Donaldson. I'm the coordinator for the Wairarapa Rural Support Trust. I'm also a clinical psychologist, so I spend most of my time driving around, visiting farmers, and probably 70 to 75% of them are men who are their well-being is compromised in some way. So this is my bread and butter, and I absolutely commend you guys for coming and having this open forum about it. I think it's fantastic, and I thank you for being vulnerable and open and sharing that, because it's really key. I'd probably just like to add a couple of things. I'm hugely passionate. This is my jam, so I'd just like to add to some of the comments that weave in, like some of the things that I think our rural men, some of the challenges that get in the way is, one, they don't know what it takes to stay well. They don't actually know what are the things. So you guys have mentioned some key things. We know that connection is the number one thing that keeps us well. So I think more education and awareness about, and that's what we do. We try and weave that in. Secondly, they don't get the early signs when their well-being starts to become compromised. And so often they're quite far down the track before the crash happens, right? Whereas women, I would honestly say, probably have a little bit more self-awareness and start to realise when things are getting rocky, so they intervene a bit earlier. So, one, we need our guys to understand more what keeps you well. Secondly, we need them to understand the early warning signs. And then thirdly, what I see happens, and it relates to the shame issue that you guys brought up, is that they don't get help because they innately feel that it's some kind of personal flaw. I've failed in some way, I'm inadequate, I'm weak. And what they don't understand is that is symptomatic of their health right now, right? So the first thing we try and do is instill that hope and separate for them to say, this is not who you are, this is symptomatic that you are currently unwell or getting unwell, so that we separate the two. You are still a great, resilient person, you're a fantastic person, but your well-being is compromised right now, and that is making you have self-doubt. And it's making you unconfident, and it's making you think that you're crap, and you're not. So we need to separate personality from health, right? So that's really, really, really key. And I think the other thing is utilising our skills. Our rural guys are really innovative and great at doing everything else. So we want to jump on board. And I find that honestly, once someone can understand and they think, oh, this is what's got me here. Once they understand why they've become compromised, and then they have a plan to go track back up. Sometimes you can see someone just once and they go, oh, I know what I've got to do now, because they go back into that great planning mode. But other times, yes, it needs other people wrapping around them greatly. And I think one of the things that you guys mentioned was the language. Unfortunately, New Zealand, mental health still has a huge stigma around those words. Huge stigma. So what I found as a psychologist is I don't get into those kind of terms, or we just talk about everyday terms and we talk about farming terms because men relate to them. So I talk about getting overloaded and kind of becoming compromised, and also comparing it to stock. Like if I often say to guys, so if your cattle have suddenly gone downhill and their body condition score is low, and you don't know what the hell's going on, and you've run out of your own resources, do you do nothing? And they say, well, no, I'd probably call in the vet or the farm consultant, or we'd do some testing. And I said, well, it's no different. It's really, really no different. You utilise you try and work out yourself, and then if you don't know, you pull in someone else that can help you to understand, and you pull in some extra support to retrack, and then you start making better decisions and things again. So, a lot of it is our language that we use, so that we're not feeding into that you're an inadequate message in some way. It's actually just about, like I say, sometimes the overload. So I just want to say a huge, huge thank you to you guys.
Hang on one second. Jesus, you're bloody impressive. Don't we bloody need 100 more Sarah Donaldsons out there?
I'm just passionate. I'm just passionate because I really, you just want people to be functioning at their best and farming well. And there are always solutions. There's the message. There are always ways out. There's never ever, there's always a way through. Always. Yeah. So just in terms of that, can I just say too, if anyone's Rural Support Trust, we have a team out there. A number of people so that we can connect, we go on farm, so we break down those barriers. So please, for me, a lot of our referrals come from people getting in touch. We say put your hand out, reach out more. No, you actually have to bridge that gap and help someone. So make the call to us so that we can connect with them and we break down that barrier, please. So that's who we are. If you want to know more about us, otherwise just look up Rural Support Trust.